Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Monday, May the 3rd, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
For more Monday podcasts.
And Robert Kemp.
Big Monday.
Big liars on Big Monday.
Is Big Liar just liar?
No, it's not.
What, John Kerry?
I'm disappointed. Because that would be the kind of translation I'd expect, right? It's like, well, it's the same word twice, so you just make it big.
Yeah, I suppose liar wouldn't make much sense in foreign languages, right? Because it would just be they might not know what the rhyme is.
Yeah.
I didn't even realise that it was meant to be connected to the phrase "pants on fire" until just now.
But then why would you say liar twice?
I don't know. I just thought it was weird.
I mean, maybe it's not, but like that could just be my read.
I think you're probably right. It just never occurred to me.
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily, I don't think they were necessarily requiring people to get that reference.
No.
I think it makes sense fine by itself.
I think they were brainstorming names for that movie. Well, we could call it Pants Fire. No, that's not...
Jim Carrey and the hot underwear.
That would be an even better translation if they did get the reference but translated the other half of the phrase.
Yeah. It's like a kind of Cockney rhyming slang thing.
What, mate? You got hot pants? That'd be quite several steps too removed for Cockney.
For
also,
slang.
the rhyming part.
Yeah, but it's just the part where you don't say the part that rhymes in the slang, do you?
Yes, but hot pants is not the phrase either.
No,
you'd have to just say pants, though, wouldn't you? It's like, what geezer? That's pants.
Which means
but then that doesn't really work. Yeah.
I'm starting a new project tomorrow, and it's Levi's,
pants?
And they're all American, and they call them pants. Of course, they do.
Pants.
So it's all going to be about choosing what pants to sell, and we entire team of English people trying to stop laughing. I will be used to it. I'll be calling them pants before long.
You'll have to call a part of the site the Y front, and then
Maybe
we finished with the Y front. Did we put the pants on it?
Underpants.
The Y front end.
I'm presuming Levi's don't sell underpants, but maybe they do.
They probably do.
They probably do. They sell everything else.
They've probably got a little irritable tag in right somewhere really awful in them that just has the Levi's logo on them.
The red tag. Maybe they've got rivets in, like the Levi's jeans. Isn't that what makes
a very different market?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Slightly different outlets for that kind of merch.
You can come get some Levi's. Or you can get some Levi's.
They've got, because they've got all the different lines. They've got like workwear. They've got, skateboarding, evidently S&M, like all the different kinds.
S&M now available at B&M.
B&M?
Isn't that like a... Wait, no, that's the... I was thinking of H&M, but like B&M, that's the discount store, isn't it? That's actually a thing.
Yeah, I've never been in one of those.
No, neither have I. I've never set foot in a B&M.
I've been in a Wilko, one in Ipswich.
I've been in a Wilko, yeah, because there's one in Ipswich.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Yeah.
You might as well. It's a very, capitalism comment there.
Exactly.
A shop, well, you might as well.
Well, that's how it used to work. I think we used to go into every shop. Pretty much. Maybe not Ann Summers. Or the Levi's version of that.
I mean, the tagline works, especially for the Ipswich one, because it's right next to a Sainsbury's, right? So,
that's quite a tone shift as well.
Okay, you might as well.
Oh, right. Is that the tagline? And Summers.
It is
You
now.
might as well.
You might as well. Treat yourself, love.
Treat yourself.
Oh dear. Like no was saying, she actually went into town.
Wow.
I
wonder
know.
what does Ipswich look like post-COVID?
Probably exactly the same.
Yeah, about as empty.
I mean,
even.
Debenham's closed, right? For
Yeah,
good,
I mean-
forever, right?
Yeah, they had their closing down sale, but apparently, there was nothing of interest in there.
No.
There never was.
Yeah, apart from the game concession that happened to be there on the second floor.
You know what? I never minded Debenhams. It was all right. I went in there and got shoes and shirts, and the rare occasion I needed a coat, it tended to come from there.
Yeah, it was fine. It was the only department store in Ipswich, right?
I mean, I guess we've got John Lewis now. But I don't think that counts.
Yeah, but that's not. You don't have a full John Lewis in Ipswich, right? It's like
It's a John Lewis at home,
right?
and attached to a Waitrose.
And presumably that's staying open, is it? Because they're closing a bunch of shops, aren't they? John Lewis.
No, well, haven't heard anything otherwise.
I think.
But then why would I? I barely leave the house.
I got a lot of my stuff for this flat from John Lewis, and now have you seen these? This ridiculous scandal about Boris Johnson's.
Oh yeah, and the John Lewis trolling,
the John Lewis nightmare. Yeah, so I'm living in a John Lewis nightmare. At least that's what Carrie Antoinette would say.
Their tweets were pretty good around this. Like John Lewis's tweets were pretty good. They were like we make stuff for almost everyone.
Yeah, maybe not the ultra elites. But...
Boris Johnson might not like it, but.
So he has to come out and say, "I love John Lewis."
Didn't he they parked a truck nearby as well, saying it's like, well, at least we have a recycling scheme.
yeah, they just park a lorry up by Downing Street, or one of their big vans, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they did pretty well. I had a sort of nice brunch at Ickworth House as well yesterday.
Oh yeah,
you can go
outdoors.
You can leave outdoors. Yeah, it was like a impromptu picnic. Well, it was a little bit promptu. We knew we were going there.
Slightly promptu, not totally impromptu.
But someone had prepared brunches, and it's like, oh, this is a nice surprise.
There's a degree of promptu. Sounds nice.
Yeah, right. We caught the last of the sun, apparently.
Yeah.
Walked for many miles. I say many because there was more than one of them.
I don't think that counts as many. You have to have more than 3 for it to be many.
Yeah. More than 3? Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely not many then.
Miles. Just say miles.
Just miles. Like I could get away with saying miles. Yeah.
I feel like miles would have to be 2.
Well, it was definitely more than 2.
Okay.
Just
miles.
not more than 3, I think.
Miles. But
well,
not
maybe
miles
more
and
than 3.
miles.
3 and a bit.
So if 2 is miles, then is 4
miles and
miles.
I guess so. It's multiplicative.
So then, if you go 3, could you say miles and mile? Would walk 500 miles. I mean, I wouldn't. But it was the first thing that I thought of. All this talk about miles. Damn you proclaimers and your catchy music.
That's such a good karaoke song. No one can resist that song.
Especially
when doing a Scottish accent.
Ever?
When you're singing it.
No, I'm gonna be.
I know I'm gonna be.
Has got an annoying high note though.
Yeah, but
I suppose that makes it even more funny for karaoke.
Yeah, it makes it funnier. And you split into 2 teams or whatever.
Have you heard about that show that I think it's been on air for a couple of weeks now, called "I Can See Your Voice"?
No.
Right, it's a sort of as bad as it's sort of bad good TV.
Sounds good.
If that makes any sense. It's a Saturday night BBC thing, so I think you can already set some sort of expectation for the standard involved here. And it's a game show where the contestant has to try and guess from 6 people which of them is a good singer, and the rest of them are bad. Well, some number of the rest of them are bad singers, but they don't actually get to hear them sing.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
How the hell does that work?
So is it just from talking? Is that what we're talking about?
Kinda, yeah. So they have
Because I was thinking of a much more difficult game show where you only look at waveforms. And you have to be like, oh, that's the good singer.
I mean,
that would be
I'm
tricky.
sure if you trained, you could probably.
Yeah, it would be impossible for normal. Like, I'm sure once you actually figured it out, it would be kind of obvious.
So they sort of do it on very loose, I guess, bits of information where they literally all they do is the first round is literally they just stand there and they I guess all the contestants the singing people have just been told to blank face all of the time that they're not being being addressed, so they just stand there staring into the ether in some sort of pose, and they get told just oh, this is the acrobat, he can do some dance moves, this is supposedly the child star who did some stuff when she was a kid but no longer does that stuff, and most of it is lies except for the good singers where it's all true. And it's so then based on that they just go, it's probably not you. And then they get the then of course they have to do the let's hear your voice and see if they can sing, which has the most I know that the whole delay in TV thing, the whole suspense delay is kind of they feel like they have to do it, but boy is it unnecessary here. There is so much for starters they do a whole they shout let's hear your voice and get the crowd to sing it with them, or whatever fake variant of crowd they've got right now. And then there's a big opening where the stage splits in two and the person walks out on stage a bit like stars in their eyes. And then they just blank face for a minute, just standing there in silence.
I mean, it
almost.
fills their time.
Yeah, exactly. They just sort of blank face for a while, whilst and then because they've got celebrities doing voiceover-y things as well, giving their opinions, but it's all just open mic while she's just standing there in this suspense phase. And then the music starts, and it's still open mic, and she still blank faces for about another 30 seconds while the intro of the music plays. And it's and you're just sitting there going, "Oh my god!"
The only thing, and then they eventually sing all that build-up phase would just be super close-up shots of their neck, look at the vocal cords, see if they're preparing to sing.
And then they actually do sing, but it's I can't believe it, because the bad singers are they're not even funny bad. I mean, they are funny bad, but they can't be really that bad. It's this. It is literally cat screeching, sort of there's no tonality to it at all. And I think even a normal person would attempt a tone.
I mean, are they just intentionally actually being bad as well? Are they just if you're not the one good singer, you have to play it up by being extra bad?
Probably, yeah. I mean, in fairness, it is quite funny. I'll give the show some credit. When that happens, it is quite funny.
Apparently, the the Seinfeld answering machine song or whatever. I don't even know the pop song that it's referencing, but anyway, apparently, Jason Alexander, the guy who played George, he was actually a Broadway actor, so he could actually sing really well. So they had to get him to do quite a lot of takes to be as bad as possible. Believe it or not, George isn't at home. It must be quite hard to sing badly if you actually know how to sing properly.
Well, it's like when you ever see a pop star or something like that, and they do just break into song. They don't just you and I probably would, and just be all like, no, 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 no. They just go straight into, no, 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 like really giving it some. It's like they don't have that, like, oh, I'm just going to casually say something in a slightly toneful manner. No, it's just belt it.
Yeah, immediate belting.
Either that, or they're just smug on their talents, and it's just like, well, if I sing at any point on camera,
I might as well go for it.
It's got to be that. Otherwise, everyone's going to think, well, you can't sing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so then the other parts of the show are equally dumb. They'll do like, here's a back, but like they don't even, like, most of the other rounds, you don't even get to ask everyone the same thing, right? So it'll be like, oh, pick 2 people you want to hear more of their backstory, but it'll be them, but with a distorted version of their voice, or. Here's the lip sync round where you can see them lip syncing to someone else singing well.
Yeah.
Except for the ones where the good singers, where it is actually them, but they're still lip syncing to themselves, which is really strange.
Who came up with this concept for this show?
Apparently it was a Korean show.
That
hit it big,
okay.
which explains a lot about the sort of format.
Yeah.
You know, that whole like Asian TV, there has to always be a panel. And that panel is actually the focus of the show.
It's all about
how
they
like
react,
that,
right? And then they put them picture in picture so you can see how to react at all times. Right?
Yep, 100% that. And I saw another show, like I don't know. Yeah, they do that on some shows. Like they did it here, and there's another one I sort of vaguely caught while we were channel hopping, which is a bit like, imagine Through the Keyhole, right? But actually, there's 6 people pretending to be the owner of the house.
Oh,
so they're all trying to say, "This is my house."
It's like the naughties Through the Keyhole, right? That's super blown out. Through keyhole. Who lives in a house? They should have done Lloyd Grossman for MTV Cribs. That would have been hilarious. Can you imagine that?
This is where Lloyd Grossman.
He was even in a band, wasn't he? Lloyd
was
Grossman. He? Yeah, I think he was in a band or something.
Lloyd and Grossman.
I just always think of the, the Vic Reeves version.
Oh, of course, it's clearly the best.
MasterChef. That might be one of my favorite sketches ever. The Vic and Bob MasterChef sketch.
Hovering salad fingers.
Yeah, with as he hovered through the air, the church bells were ringing.
And Bob cooks a shoe.
Shoe cake is cake shoe. Shoe cake. These laces look really realistic. You're just a fake cake maker, and I ain't got time for you. Anyway.
We've cogitated on the results.
So there's 6 people whose house it could be, and you have to guess.
I think was it 6? No, it might have been 4. Sorry, it might have been 4 people. But they're all there at the same time, and they're all bickering amongst themselves, like trying to convince again a panel of celebrities watching somewhere else
that this is their house.
These VTs, this is their house, and it's like they're all giving excruciating backstories about what things are. And
so it's like, would I lie to you? But it's right. Well, yeah, because
and the whole show is just this. Yeah, but that's the whole half an hour or however long this thing is just what them watching these videos of these people having sort of arguments and talking about each other's terrible acting. And of course, like, they're all acting to make it sound like the others are acting. It's weird. Yeah. It's kind of annoying.
And one like, come dine with me, but bad.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
And one of them was like, this is my house. Get out of my house.
Yeah, get out of my house. Still talking about all the weird shit that you supposedly don't do when you live in my house.
And to make it even weirder, it's Stacey Dooley presented.
Oh, great.
So it's just, it's really odd.
Man, I'm so out of touch with. I've just not watched TV for years in that sense. Netflix and stuff, but not broadcast TV.
So I've only just caught it because it didn't go out of my way to see these dumbass things, but they were just there. And it's like, I'm getting drawn into this crap. And I know it's that sort of TV. You know it's bad.
Yeah,
but you just can't look away.
It's part of the appeal. The badness.
I used to like Come Dine With Me. I can't stand it anymore. I think that's an element of shame.
Do you hold those kind of dinner parties then for people in the Switch? No. Are you going in Crete?
Not 3 people I don't know that expect me to cook. I mean, that's your first mistake.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have a bigger kitchen, right? I guess. Well, it's definitely bigger, right?
So it's not about the size of the kitchen. It's about the size of my skill.
Yeah. You've got space to increase that skill if you wish.
I guess they always pick places where they have like a separate dining room as well on that show. So it's like, so they can go to the kitchen and cook in private whilst everyone bitches.
Yeah.
You need your private bitching time. That's my mental health tip for this week.
Oh yeah, need some of those.
You need your private bitching time.
Okay. In the kitchen.
TV has taught us anything. Perhaps in the kitchen.
Meanwhile, speaking of which, Zachary, you got any kitchen bitching?
No.
No. Wow, everything is all cool in the kitchen.
Gave us a good couple of seconds of suspense there.
I mean, I'm in open plan now mode, so I'm in the kitchen right now. Technically.
Does that not get annoying if you cook something and then your entire place smells of that something?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but you don't notice it if it's everywhere because you just adapt to it.
See, I don't know. Like, as much as I love bacon, the length of time that bacon smell hangs is a bit too long.
I'm not actually a bacon lover. Almost everyone is who's a meat eater, but that's not the thing that I miss if I went vegetarian. Honestly,
it's got to be nearly burnt.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I've got is
nearly burnt bacon,
like huge. Like I can open the floor to ceiling, like window / door, basically to the outside if I need to air out the flat. That's no problem. And so it's just being winter would never be a problem. But I know what you mean. I've got an extractor thing as well above the hood, but
they don't really extract well enough.
No, and I've got like mechanical ventilation, not aircon, sadly, but I don't think anywhere in Britain has aircon, apart from hotels.
Yeah, hotels do. If you can never figure out their stupid buttons.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't cooked anything too smelly yet, so I don't know. Probably it will permeate.
The hanging fish smell, that's bad.
Chicken soup. Gloria. Yeah, I don't think I've got any bitching. It's all okay so far. But I am, because I'm doing this Levi's thing, I'm going to be working till 8 p.m, so I'm probably not going to have time to cook proper meals after that. Maybe I could cook them in the middle of the day.
Yeah, you can.
What, 8 p.m, start cooking?
Yeah.
Rob doesn't eat until 9 most of the time, so pretty much.
Really? Is that your eating hour?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say all the time. We're quite variable, but yeah, it's fine. Cook at 8.
Yeah.
We cook it. Yeah, we eat at 10 some days.
Yeah? Oh, okay. Maybe I'll think about it. I mean, it's quite different to Zach. When do you eat? 5 or something?
5 to 6, depending on when shit actually gets cooked. And also depending on if it's me doing any of it, because then I can get lazy and let that drift later.
Not as late as 9, though.
No, that's the trouble that I always have when I go to Rob's house, because then I die.
Right. Okay, that's right.
You've got to snack up, man. You know what you're getting into at house camp.
Yeah, but then that fucks up the actual, eating the pizza part of it.
So Shea Kemp is changing. It's official.
Shea Kemp is moving. It's not 100% confirmed, but theoretically, this is the last podcast I was doing in this venue.
Wow! Time for the new studio.
Uh-huh.
We're going to be casting salads from whole new locations.
I mean, I've left my mark. Yeah. I left my mark and it rotted around the house. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, actually start having to pack more things for realsies.
Yeah, I've got to finish my move, actually. Some of my stuff's still in the old flat because I'm still there until the 16th.
Put my T-shirt collection in a bag this morning.
Oh, yeah. Did you look at any of them and think, I've had that for 12 years, I should probably throw it out?
There was at least one shirt I saw that I've had since I was maybe 17.
Yeah, exactly. You remember that one order of Think Geek that you had, Zach, that you basically wore in and out? Do you still have those?
Oh, I don't think there are any of those left.
Yeah. I think they've got to have died by now.
Yeah, I've definitely got shirts from maybe 2002.
Have you got your, like, this man's had enough t-shirt?
Oh, yeah, I've still got that. Yeah. I've still got that, yeah.
You should probably throw that away.
That's intact. Still wearable. Actually, how old is this one I'm wearing? Oh, no, this one's not that old.
Oh, someone's flying a kite in the park. It's kind of cool. It's quite windy today.
It's quite windy today.
Yeah. Anyway. Clothing styles.
Yeah, I'm going to make harsh decisions over the next 2 weeks about which things do I actually pack up first.
Yeah.
I don't think those are harsh decisions. This is when it all has to get done eventually.
It all has to get done eventually, but it's like if you're going to do it over time, it's like, wow, what might I actually want to use in the next 2 weeks?
This kite looks like the squid attack drone things from the Matrix.
What are those called? Those squid things?
Sentinels?
They're just called Sentinels, yeah. The Sentinels. You see that thing about a bit of a tangent. You see that thing about like how the 4K version of the Matrix was all sort of regraded again to get rid of the weird overly green look that the Matrix had in the sort of remastered versions.
But the grading was all on purpose, didn't it? Change between the Matrix and the real world and stuff like that.
To an extent, yeah, but it was exaggerated when they did the HD remasters.
Oh, they overgreened the Matrix. Okay.
Yeah. And so they've dialed it back for the 4K to get closer to what the original was. And it's good on you.
Yeah.
Because it was quite green.
Yeah. You don't want to go too far with that. But it was cool. The grading, and then they went even further in the second one because they made it super earth tones and stuff, didn't they, for the human city, whatever it was called.
Gritty Zion.
Yeah, Zion. That's right.
You mean the non-stop rave town?
Yeah, the rave town. That was so dumb.
Love those films, but still, non-stop rave town. Rave town. You can do without that. Welcome to the Fire Festival, if it actually happened.
Yeah. Right, it's time for the news.
Because nothing else interesting has been happening in the world.
Yeah, but nothing has been happening in news either, so it's not much of a move on.
No. What did happen? Sony did a thing. It had some Ratchet and Clank in it. You've watched it, Dan. Tell me about Ratchet and Clank.
It looks like it looks next generation. I think that is. I mean, you can see it if you look at that Astro's Playroom and stuff, which I did play a bit of it. But I guess it's what is it that makes something look next gen these days, right? Compared to PS4 and stuff. I guess it's just like the amount of draw distance and stuff. And the loading, the fact that you can just, go through a dimension to the next thing instantly. I guess that's it. But whatever the technical stuff added up, it kind of feels next gen, even if it's just a platform game. But it looked fun. And the tear kind of mechanic looked quite a lot cooler than the kind of equivalent in, Bioshock Infinite or whatever.
Oh, sure. But was that? I think that wasn't really a gameplay mechanic.
In Bioshock, wasn't it?
I don't really remember that.
You teleport around? Or...
well, you could in the combat arenas there was like specific things you could toggle essentially.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You could
toggle some
bring
cover
things
toggle
into reality. Yeah. Well, yeah. So
this is a bit like that, isn't it? Because there's like grapple points, effectively.
Basically grapple points, but they did look really cool.
Yeah, the effect's weird, isn't it? Because it's
weird.
like you're actually standing in place and you pull the thing towards you.
Yeah, you pull the world towards you, and then
like, and then suddenly you're on
and
it.
then you're there. Yeah, it's a bit like teleporting in. I mean, it looks really cool, but it's a bit like just teleporting in VR games, isn't it? Where you're like suddenly there.
Which creates a slightly weird problem, because if you were standing in one place and then you pulled the tear over there, shouldn't the tear be there when you turn around and look back at it?
I know, it's weird. It works though. And the city level look cool. And like, I'm not a Ratchet and Clank aficionado, but the characters seem charming enough, including the new one. What's her name? Wrench or something? No. What's her name?
the lady.
Yeah, the lady.
I don't know. They didn't tell us who that was in the reveal.
So she's got.
So I don't know if they've given her a name. Has she got a name now?
Yeah, she's got a name.
Is she a Wombax instead of a Lombax?
Yeah. But yeah, it looked cool.
Tracy. It's just called Tracy. Something mundane.
Well, it's some kind of tool like Ratchet, right?
Not Delia. I can't really think of a
Rivet.
tool name.
Her name's Rivet.
Rivet? Okay, maybe. It's not. I suppose it doesn't have to be a feminine sounding name and all that in this modern era, but still.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I think it definitely.
Does that mean there's another Clank? What would Clank's other name be?
Well, that's the thing. I think she's got Clank, and Ratchet's separated from Clank and is trying to get back.
But there must be a Clank in this other universe. If it's Ratchet and Clank, there must be another one. It must be like Rivet and Crutch.
It's going to be her arm. That's the spoiler.
Bionic Commando style.
Yeah, exactly.
She's got Ratchet.
Like she had a Clank at one point, but then he had to be turned into her arm.
Right. Winter Soldier. And there was a sequence that they were flying through the level pretty fast on the back of a beetle that was fast, Speedle or something.
Oh, okay. They briefly showed that before.
That was, I don't know. I mean, there are sequences like that in PS4 games, obviously, like a Naughty Dog game or something like that, but it's very linear. I don't know how linear this was, but like
probably barely.
It was loading a lot of level very fast, which was cool.
Let me tell you about a little game called Sonic the Hedgehog, and traveling very fast, loading a lot of level.
Well, not. Yeah. I don't know. I suppose I haven't played Sonic Forces or whatever, but they're basically just tubes, aren't they? Those levels or whatever. I mean,
kind of, yeah, but that's not the best example. It's not the one I would have picked.
More than PS5 game.
No, definitely not.
Anyway, yeah, I was. Well, I was going to say I was impressed, but I was like, that's kind of what I expected from a PS5 game, and they seem to be delivering. So, and it looked quite fun to play. So. Overall looks good. I mean, obviously, we're talking about a £70 game, I imagine. So when you come to actually decide to buy it, you might have to think. But it looked fun.
Yeah, the highest price I've seen so far for I guess what you'd call this generation game is Resident Evil 7, which is on Steam at $65. Like there's no lower denomination of that. That's not like a special edition or anything. It's like no, the base game is $65.
Yeah.
And it's like that's kind of a new high, I think, from what I've seen for
like
base
I know
games.
It's been climbing, and obviously there's inflation, so it was inevitable that it would climb anyway. But surely at a certain point, like kids can't buy their games, right?
Yeah.
What?
And that's always been the balance. But they say, especially with AAAs, they now say it's like, hey, well, these tend to be targeted at adult audiences now, and also they cost way more than they ever used to make, so.
Like, I guess, that's the thing, isn't it? Because, like, Resident Evil or, like, I don't know, Red Dead or something, it's like, yeah, that's an adult's game. Charge, yeah, and then it's massive investment to make, so, yeah, charge more than you would for, like, a movie or something, because there's so much more entertainment value there. But then a kid's game...
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't 100% buy that argument, the whole, like, we need to raise the price because they cost so much more to make now than they used to. And it's like, well, no, the industry is also so much bigger than it was before.
Yeah.
Even back when they were cheaper, they already made ridiculous amounts of profit anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. True.
And I don't think the cost to make them proportionally has gone up nearly as much.
You see, I'm not so. I do believe that the cost has increased. Like, I buy that part of it. Like, simply because, hey, the amount of detail that needs to go into every individual asset is now so much higher. But the tools are a lot better. Let's not forget that. Like, half the stuff you build is probably Speed Tree, half the time, or some other tool to just make it for you. And especially in these sort of, like, I don't know, I get half the problem with a lot of, like, realistic looking AAA games is they all kind of look the same, and it's kind of the world that Epic is leading you down, isn't it? With all their, like, hey, use these cinema assets that are probably in a massive repository somewhere.
I mean, we already basically talked about that in terms of the engines. Now it's just becoming the assets as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you could see that in that Ratchet and Clank demo, just the amount of detail and stuff. And it's like, that is really impressive and it looks really cool. But like, you could just buy a bunch of indie games and have a load of fun, couldn't you? I mean,
absolutely.
That's the choice you've got as a consumer, right? You could pay £70 for this amazing looking thing, or get a load of fun with much more cheaply produced games, right?
Sure. Well, yeah, the AAA video game industry especially wants that. They want to be like Marvel films, right? They want that level of fidelity.
Yeah,
they want that
want.
level of, and that'll attract the crowd that's interested in that. Which is, in fairness, where you could argue the bulk of the money is, right? The bulk of the money are in people that go to the cinema for bish bash bang.
But
the spectacle,
they're not,
I guess.
Even though they charge quite a bit to go and see Infinity War, it's not prohibitive, is it? Like, in comparison to like a £70 game.
I mean, those tickets are still expensive, but yeah, like they would take the any normal person should have a little bit of a think when you're spending £70 on a bit of entertainment, presumably.
Yeah. Because I wonder if that'll cause some. I mean, it's already happened, in this generation, but the PS4 generation or whatever. But like, they're going to be some big flops, right? Because the big winners will win big, like your Grand Theft Autos, and then something that's aiming close and then gets 70, 80s on Metacritic is going to just tank and lose a bunch of money.
And if we're being perfectly honest, the ratio, I would say, of AAA games that come out and do something actually 100% sort of like innovative in the way that they used to, is very low now.
Yeah, it's really dropping. You have to have a lot of confidence to innovate in that space. I mean, you can say, it depends what you mean. Like, technically innovate like this with the speed of the loading and everything, that's enabled by the platform, and that is progress. And there's not that much risk in utilizing that stuff, right? That's obviously going to be good. But other risks, right, in gameplay and stuff and and stuff.
You don't see too many your big name experiments anymore.
I mean, the closest
and
you
probably
get
for good reason.
Like, Death Stranding, right? And that didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And even that, like, it didn't have the budget of something like Metal Gear Solid 5, but probably for the best.
Yeah, you can understand it, right? You spend your money on your safe bets, I guess. As a business, that's what you do. If there's easy money to be made, you make it. But still, It's like you're not really seeing. You're spending all that money and you're getting a very nice looking experience, but it's not always, or I would actually say fairly rarely, the most fulfilling gameplay experience. Like it's kind of how I felt about Control. That's a big budget game. Maybe not the biggest of budgets of games. It's, Remedy doesn't control that much power, but it got a lot of acclaim, and I'm like, gameplay wise, it's all right.
I was thinking about this earlier, in fact, where I was thinking about how, like, particularly Jim Sterling, for example, or
AAA.
The AAA like moniker. It's always like you have to. I mean, obviously the idea is that like that's one. AAA is meant to be like, financial. It's the equivalent to the financial system, right? Like the like the loan grading that the financial system
like
works
Moody's
under.
or whatever. Yeah.
But like, you need another. It's because sometimes we'll call things B tier, but I think like what you actually need is almost like, because like B tier isn't the same as AA, right?
No. Like,
so what you actually need is you actually need like. You need to have the B tiers inserted between the A tiers. So you need like AAA and then triple B, which is what we're talking about. Where it's like it's a hella like super expensive game to make, but it just turns out kind of average.
But yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's what, as I say, the majority of games end up being these days. They're sort of triple Bs.
That's certainly what Control is, right?
Yeah. Well,
that might be double B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Double B. Yeah.
I don't think Remedy has ever managed to particularly get the budget that they might actually want, but maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the realm they work in. But then you've got studios like, I don't know, like Ninja Theory, that you might even just call them B to A, just single B to single A.
Yeah,
because they are fairly small teams normally on those games, and they are normally, for the most part, pretty damn great, for that budget.
I mean, it's a stupid. It's like you're going back to ranking everything on a scale, but like the fact that everyone just AAA has become like its own thing, regardless of the fact that it's kind of meant to be part of a scale.
There is like a delineation there, isn't it? That does feel like indie and some number of letters. There is a boundary, isn't there? There does still feel like there's a boundary.
Yeah.
Where does Nintendo stand in all of this, though?
Well, that's the problem.
As usual,
like,
Nintendo are kind of the outlier.
Yeah.
to any ideas.
It's like if you were thinking about Breath of the Wild or whatever, you'd want to say it was AAA, but it's clearly not. In terms of like,
I see. I'd put it in AAA category but that's not in terms of like, hey, like assets or engine or anything like that. That's the measure of. There's a different measure of quality, I think, in a game like Breath of the Wild, right? Where it's like everything is, it's been QA'd to all hell, right? Which you can't say about every AAA game.
Yeah, I mean, like that is.
They've just spent the same amount of money, just differently.
Do you think that the constraints of the Switch as essentially a mobile device actually helped, right, set the boundaries of what was possible? And therefore helped? Because imagine if
I think Nintendo have thrived on that for years, right? They've thrived on that whole restrictions drive creativity thing.
Exactly. Because imagine if you were trying to make Breath of the Wild for Series X or PS5. I mean, even Nintendo would struggle to finance the amount of detail that would be required to do that, right?
But that's what I mean. They wouldn't have to. They stylize to get around those restrictions, right? Like you've seen Breath of the Wild run at 4K through CMU. It's like it's still a great looking thing.
Yeah, it's an amazing looking game, but I mean, it was necessary to make that run on the Switch. Whereas if you took away those restraints, and where you could have
end it with Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, I mean, because Rockstar can make Red Dead 2 run on PS4, and it's like. I don't know. I mean,
you don't know if Nintendo have the technical chops to get.
No, it's not that they couldn't. It's just like I don't know if that would actually be beneficial necessarily, or I don't know, or I don't
It's a
know.
style thing, isn't it? There's a whole different style of game and how it's presented. That means that sort of.
But does that mean that no one else can make Breath of the Wild or something like that? Because they're in a unique.
No, because people are definitely trying.
Oh right, yeah. But that's just ripping off. That's different. I don't know. What I'm trying to argue.
I mean, I don't think that's a barrier. I think that's maybe not, but maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe because the safe bet isn't so safe. If you tried to make maybe you're right. Maybe if you tried to make a Breath of the Wild in that visual style for PS5, today, would it not work because everyone goes, well, this doesn't look AAA.
Yeah.
Where's my money gone?
It's gone on making a beautiful, amazing gameplay and QAing it to all hell, as Zach said, and all of the other stuff that makes that game probably the best game.
Yeah. But people, right?
So now we've run into another like version of the AAA scale where it's actually scaled to what console it's on as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So what we should say is AAA for Switch.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Good old grading scales are becoming unnecessarily complicated. It's the classic. we moved away from it for a while, but now we've got to bring it back, apparently.
Going back to my tangent to my slight Apple fanboyness, but did you see they put that M1 chip into the iPad?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Insane. Because now we're talking about the Switch or whatever, but like the graphics power on a mobile device is going to get ridiculous. Like that's like a full desktop class chip. In fact, they made an announcement where they announced new desktop iMacs with that chip, and then they had iPads with the exact same chip with the same power.
With the same power, so they're not even having to.
Well, they're the same chip.
No, but like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like to make the battery life work.
Probably it's throttled more. I mean, that was the difference between the MacBook Air, which is passively cooled, and the MacBook Pro small one, which has a fan. Right? It's the same chip, but it's because it's actively cooled.
They have to scale it back. Yeah,
it can run for longer periods without throttling. So obviously, I'm sure the thermal performance of the iPad is probably slightly worse than the passively cooled laptop.
Depends how much they care. If it was anything like how Apple treated the iPad 3, which got hot.
Yeah,
that thing got hot.
I'm not quite sure. But it's stupid. Like it's got a Thunderbolt port, so you can just plug in a 6K monitor and run that from your iPad. It's just stupid. So who knows what that will mean in a few years for mobile gaming devices? Because the graphics power on that is not bad, right? You can run Rise of the Tomb Raider at a good sort of 40 frames per second on that passively cooled MacBook. So, we'll see what it means.
I mean, that's all right.
Yeah, obviously it's not great, but
that's not brilliant. But then I think you can. There are laptops out there that would do that at 60 easily now, but
yeah, but they're like, yeah, I mean it's true, but it's like a general computing chip, and it definitely outperform a Switch, I would say.
Oh well, yeah, no question. Yeah. But I mean, the stuff out there that could outperform a Switch pretty much when the Switch launched.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't built to use a $1,000's worth of graphics hardware in there, because a handheld console at $1,000 is a bit of a hard sell.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Especially when you might think that a Series X or a PS5 is a hard sell at their price points, but
I mean, no one can even buy them. Anyway, Ratchet & Clank. What else is in the news? Pokemon Snap is out, I saw. And looks like a faithful game, but 15 hours or something of content, which is pretty good.
Well, that's way better than I was expecting.
Yeah. I think they probably knew, right, that was exactly what everyone would be asking. It's like, well, that's fine, but how much of it is there? Because the original one was pretty short.
But it's still 50 quid.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is it still a 60 quid game or whatever? But like that's okay. That's not too bad. I've definitely paid. If we're talking about the whole amount of money you would spend on a video game thing, it's like, yeah, the amount of money I spent on the original Gears of War games, and they're like 8-hour campaigns.
No, that's true. That's true.
Well, I mean, it's I guess technically not 100% Nintendo, so there might be a chance of giving some discount.
Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, there's that. There's some leaks about Battlefield 6, I guess, but maybe it's just called Battlefield.
We're in a weird place with Battlefield because Zach's the one that would care the most, but he's also the one that has the least capable machine for a Battlefield game.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yes. Although, that engine has been pretty decent at scaling all along.
That's true.
But not decent enough at this point, I don't think.
Probably not right now.
My PC really is ancient at this point.
It is creaking.
Have you got a plan, Zach, for your PC?
Well, as I've said a couple of times over the year or two that this has been a situation that's been ongoing, it's like the prices have never got better, or like one part of it has got better as another part has gone up.
Are you stuck in the graphics card problem? Surely you don't need a new graphics card, though. You could get one like second hand that would be for a lot less than your current one.
Yeah, but like I don't like to do that really. Like every time I got a PC, which is 2 times, I just buy a really good PC and then it lasts forever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
admittedly, the graphics card has been the one thing that has been upgraded every time, but still want it to last a fair while.
I mean, nowadays it's like there's no more hard disks, right? You'd be looking at SSDs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and SSDs they're not all that expensive now, anyway.
No.
For regular SSDs will get you by. You don't need to go M2. You should go M2 if you can, or whatever these other, whatever the chips are called these days, NVMe and all that.
That is maybe one of the components that has actually become a reasonable price during the time all the other components have not become reasonable prices.
I mean, I'm tempted to start looking myself, honestly, not for graphicsy stuff because you can't right now. No. But I actually do think I stress my CPU enough these days, especially on the audio side when I'm working on music and stuff.
As we've discussed before, CPUs have just become the problem, where it's just like it's no longer a curve really. It's just like or at least maybe they just haven't come up with a good way of marketing CPU improvements any longer because the numbers don't go up.
Right. I mean, but it's all like AMD for gaming, isn't it now, or is it
Ryzen's? Yeah.
Ryzen's.
That seems to be the bang for buck sweet spot. Ryzen's and Threadrippers.
Yeah, but Threadrippers is not necessary unless you're really streaming.
No, they are very good chips, and they're also not cheap. But they are way up there in terms of power.
It's a weird world.
I might be reaching the point where even for me the CPU is a bit limited. RAM's never been an issue. I've always had far too much RAM. I made that mistake.
Oh, because how much do you get? Do you get 32?
I've got 32, and I've never stressed that.
No, 32 is a lot.
It's not like many apps really take advantage of it, even if you've got it. Like I thought, like having that much would be helpful for things like the video editing and things inside for the site and things, and it's just it's never really used, and that surprised me. Like things prefer to do hard disk and proxy caching, and it's like I've got all this RAM, just use it.
Oh well, one day new systems will come.
New integrated boards,
probably systems on chip. It looks like
AMD ones.
They've started manufacturing the faster Mac, the Apple chip, so that'll be later this year. The Mac that I would actually want to get from work will come out.
M2.
The M2, yeah, exactly. What did you say, Zach? Starfield is meant to come out this year.
That's what a rumor has suggested. Which, I mean, I guess technically it's been 2 or 3 years since they even announced that. And obviously they would have been thinking about it before then. But it was such a nothing announcement when they did announce it. It was just like, well, this obviously isn't going to come out forever. But then again, it was like the next in line. Because you knew that Elder Scrolls 6 wasn't going to be next. It was going to be Fallout 76 and then Starfield and then Elder Scrolls.
Out of the core Bethesda teams, anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, you have to assume that we're at least going to see it at E3 in whatever state it's in.
I mean, you'd have to hope at this point.
Well, because Microsoft will want to show it, right? Because now that they've got Bethesda, they'll be like, oh, we can show this at the Microsoft stage.
Mm. But then Microsoft would, because they own all of Bethesda, there's quite a lot they can pull on there, right? There's
well, let's just hope we don't get like Skyrim again or for Xbox Series X.
God. The remastered again edition. Why would you need to, though? Presumably they'd just make the last remaster run at 4K and then you'd be all right, which it might already do on a 1X, you know?
Yes, you could do that, but then what if you want to market it better by making it seem like it's a new, even more better improved version?
I don't know that Microsoft would do that if they have control of Bethesda like that now. I
mean, I could totally...
It's not really Microsoft style.
I mean, I could definitely see them putting Skyrim out for the system specifically. Maybe it is just the same thing, but just released in a Series X box. Or not even a box, because boxes don't even exist any longer, but you know what I mean.
It's probably already on Game Pass.
Maybe. I don't know what the situation about putting all Bethesda stuff into Game Pass has been.
Some stuff turned up. Yeah. Some stuff definitely made an appearance.
But yeah, presumably, regardless of anything, they'll at least want to say what Bethesda is working on at their E3. Even if it's not Starfield, even if it's something completely different. They will need to be look at what our investment has got us so far.
Yeah, maybe that's more important. Rage 3. Is that news? Is that all we got? Yeah, Resident Evil 7's about to come out, and Returnal came out, and that's about it, really.
But let's focus on what we have been playing. What have you been playing, Rob?
Me? The last Earl of Jovian Way.
The final Earl.
Probably all right to say where I live now.
Essentially where we live now. Because your new place doesn't have street names named after planets.
No, it doesn't. It does not. It is not based on a solar system theme. It's a bit more boring than that.
By Jove.
Yeah, so where to begin this week? I think I'm going to begin with Genesis Noir, which I mentioned a little while back, which is that sort of jazzy cosmic adventure, almost a point and click adventure game, but presented in such a unique, funky animation style that it's kind of hard to ignore. So I ended up playing that all the way through with Gnome, which was interesting because she got into the style of it and was like yeah, let's do this. So we ended up playing that together, which is a rarity.
Oh, cool.
And also because it's like a point and click, it's not too difficult mechanically to really grasp. Although I say it's not too difficult mechanically. Oh my god, some of the a good portion of that game is properly abstract. We look back on it after finishing it and are just okay, so what the hell was going on?
Right.
It's I've been racking my brains trying to think of the best way to really like explain what Genesis Noir really is, because I don't think I did a decent job of it last time. It's like it's weird. It's like you're stuck in that your character, a watchmaker, it seems to have got himself stuck in a situation where his lover, Miss Mass, is being shot by a jealous lover called Golden Boy, who is also part of Miss Mass's band. And you walk in, and the gunshot is in progress, and the Big Bang, as it's referred to, and then you figure out you can sort of interact with that and start make a black hole start appearing that will, could stop the Big Bang and thus save your lover, which of course all ends up to being a cosmic metaphor of how time and how mass is kind of the victim of creation and time or something. It's weird. And then so you then start seeing like moments in time in terms of like the galaxy and all the cosmos's creation and where it might go and where humanity might go, meeting people along the way in a desperate attempt to build a black hole to save your lover.
You're right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
out there.
That's the general theme, but like how it's presented is like none of that's really with words at any point. You get these odd little like at the start of some sections you'll get like a little blurb that will be some poetic way of describing what part of time you might be looking at or what part of the galaxy's genesis, I suppose, that you're looking at, and an occasional description of things you look at. For instance, you might find some stuff here and there, but it's generally pretty narratively, like visually narratively driven, which is its strength. It is hugely stylized. It's the animation is incredible in places, and just so bonkers and out there and bizarre. And it's just the way even little things like there's the bit in the demo, there's where you meet the musician has it's a classic call and response sequence to represent improvised jazz, where he plays a bit and then you play it back, but it's presented in like these like jaunty squares that are just on screen that look like the intro for something, or a little bit like how the Cowboy Bebop layout kind of happens with like the various squares about and things like that, but the whole thing is in black, white and yellow. Yeah, a little bit like that, but kind of a bit more jaunty, and you're like picking the boxes to do that, and they're all sort of animating and squidging around, and then that happens, and then there's a little solo, and then it turns into a toy for a while where you're basically painting windows of a cityscape in the sky, but as you're doing it, it's playing jazz. And and it's like there are things like there's a lot of stuff like that littered around, and it's like this is really cool, this is kind of fun. I don't care that it's not really a game, it's just fun to do. And I wish there was more of that high. Is where I say there's a lot of places where the pacing takes a real dive, and you're wandering around not quite sure what you're supposed to be doing, which that doesn't happen very often. But there are places where it's perhaps a little trickier to do what I think the game is asking you to do, and there are some puzzle styles that are really quite baffling in places. Where it's just like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, but I think I've figured out what it wants me to do each time, and then makes you do it several times. And then there are some elements that are just like super mundane, and it makes you do for far too long, which is a bit of a shame. But there aren't very many. There isn't much of that. You're most of the time just being swept along with swells of saxophone and maybe a warp of the visuals every now and then, or some constellation of stars winking at you. It's a weird and wonderful experience, but like you don't expect to understand it. And I would say the last act of the game is weirdly contrasty to the rest of it. Like it does take a bit of a sudden turn, and introduces a few new things, and the music style changes a little bit, and it's a little jarring. Well, it's kind of cool. And I think on reflection, I sort of understand what it was trying to do, maybe, but it's a bit weird. It sort of comes out of nowhere to some degree, and you're like, "What? Okay, what's going on? Why am I doing this now?" Like, okay, this is the entire game has kind of been, or the style of the game has kind of been turned around. I enjoyed it. It's one of the weirdest things I've played for a while. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. But yeah, as I say, I wouldn't say I understand it. I would like to have seen. I almost want them to have focused more on just the down to earth noir story of the love triangle, because there is a backstory to it. There is a little, you get little vignettes here and there of the watchmaker having a bit of a flashback, and there's a visual style to those as well, so you know when you're having one of these sort of like memory sequences, and it's I kind of want to know more about that, and just to have it zoned more into the classic noir, I think, than go all cosmic.
It went a bit free jazz,
yeah, maybe it's a bit too free jazz. But it is cool. It's definitely worth checking out. And I hope they are aware that there are some problems with it, and so I hope that gets patched soon, because we did run into a number of glitches. There were a couple of moments where the controls basically didn't work. They stopped working, so we could there was one point where we could move the cursor around, but it wouldn't do anything. That was easily remedied by just going to the pause menu and coming out, and then it worked again. There was one moment where the on-screen cursor just disappeared completely, and we had to restart the game for that in order to be able to get control again. There was one section where the geometry messed up, and it kind of rendered totally wrong, and we kind of clipped to where we needed to be, which was actually quite helpful. But
all right. Convenient.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we seem to be in the right place now. That's nice. Yeah, I don't think those are intentional. Hard to tell sometimes in a game like that. So yeah, it's not a perfect construction, but man, I want to see what they do next. This was developed by Feral Cat Den, and I think this is their first major project. So
cool.
Yeah, kudos to them.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. There's I think it was on Polygon or The Verge or somewhere where they were talking about how they had to. This was built in Unreal Engine, and how they were pretty inexperienced at doing it, but even without their experience, like bending Unreal Engine to do what they wanted to do with it proved quite difficult at times.
Right.
If we want to talk about engines, here we go. Like making a stylized game in a graphics engine that's probably geared up primarily for realistic looking things.
More realistic looking stuff,
yeah. Yeah, quite a challenge, apparently. Most of the animation was done in Flash. Like, Flash is still apparently a thing.
And then, how was it exported into the game then? Or
yeah, that was one of their problems. They had to build custom tools.
Were they just familiar with
export
animating in Flash? Just like
I think so. Yeah.
Used to do.
Well, I mean, presumably you could still use Flash just for frame interpolation, really, and then just export the animation into a more useful program.
I wouldn't even say there's much in the way of like frame interpolation in use here, though, because it's got that kind of hand-drawn look to it. There's not really like that, tweening in Flash has a very specific look to it, right?
Well, I mean, yes, in the traditional way, but maybe that's just the easy way that we saw in Flash animations, and not like the real way that.
Yeah, maybe not the pro way. Yeah, you might be right. Still, pretty cool. It's madness. But as we were talking about in the AAA section, I enjoy a bit of madness. I would like to see more madness. Be more mad. So let's talk about the entire flip side of that, from mad indie title to utter middle of the road AAA with Outriders.
Triple B.
Triple B. Maybe this is a triple B. Yeah.
Triple B. Outriders.
So I've been playing Outriders. Yeah.
Why? Oh wait, I know why. Ignore that question. I know why.
Why?
Because it was free.
Yep. Because on fucking Game Pass.
Because why not? I thought, hey, it's a new release. I can then play right now and then make podcast content. Because I'm so dedicated to the cause, yeah. Outriders. Well, there was a little bit more to it than that. Like, not just that it's on Game Pass. Like, it's by People Can Fly. And I have a bit of a
Bulletstorm.
I have a bit of a fondness for them. Yeah, the Bulletstorm guys.
Right. Kill with skill.
I think they're a talented developer. So, like, their take on a loot shooter, could have been interesting.
Isn't.
But let's start with the obvious. Outriders hasn't had a brilliant release. There's a lot of news about, and there's a lot of stories you can read about how it's not gone massively well technically, and I can't really contest that. My experience, I think, has been better than a lot of the reports you'll hear out there. I haven't had the connection issues that a lot of people have had, because naturally it's a loot shooter in the sense that it's an always online game. So even if you're playing it solo like I am, you're always online and you require a server connection. And for some people, including the aforementioned Jim Sterling, that has meant they've basically not been able to play the game. Because the online services haven't worked for them. I've had a pretty seamless experience myself, but hey, buyer beware. And the presentation does it leaves a little bit to be desired in places. It's a bit all over the place. Like the opening video is like page tears all to hell. It's a little bit like the complaint when we were looking at Panzer Dragoon Remake, right? It's like they can't look like it's a video. How is it page tearing on a video?
Can you get that wrong?
Yeah, it's bizarre. And there are errors in some of the cutscenes that aren't videos as well. Like lip syncing doesn't always work. I've had a couple where facial animation is broken to all hell. Whereas like sometimes there's just been no facial animation, and other times it's made people look like they've got some sort of deformity, and then cuts back to a shot where they look perfectly fine. It's like it's odd. It's like there are moments where it's a weird looking thing. And the first few gameplay experiences I had were not smooth. One of the first things the game makes you do is do a little bit of VR training, and even in that some of the enemies were doing that thing where they reached a chest high wall, because this game plays a little bit like Gears of War. They reach a chest high wall, and instead of like crouching behind it or getting stopped by it, they just suddenly ping up a few feet so they're stood on it. And it's like this was highlighted in bright red in a VR environment, and it's like, okay. So not even the tutorial can get this right. And then the very first enemy I had to shoot was hovering several feet in the air as well, despite the fact that it was supposed to be a big lumbering beast charging me down. It's like, okay, is this a side effect of it being an online game and maybe it's all server hosted? And something went wrong there? I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird because the little bits of video I'd seen of it, there were some things that did look like the enemies were lagging in like that traditional way. It's the classic, like they keep running in a straight line, but then they just like
ping back
their Z position just like adapts over geometry, so they just like ping up on top of a wall or whatever, which is just the kind of thing you'd see if you were lagging in a multiplayer game. But like it's single player and it's AI, so there shouldn't be any reason for their position to be reported on a server. Is there?
No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. That's exactly what it looks like, and that's exactly what it feels like at times. And I honestly have no idea why that stuff. And I mean, obviously, that's been the major complaint levied against this game. You can play the entire thing solo. I would even argue the story seems to be aimed at it being played solo, and yet it doesn't. You can't. You have to be online. You can't like go offline and do it on your own. When there's no reason for it.
Maybe this game actually does what Crackdown 3 said it was doing. It has like pointless calculations on the server.
Well, yeah, maybe the whole thing is driven by the cloud. So with all that out of the way, I've got a little more ranting to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't. So far, the story's not all that much. Like, imagine Borderlands in space, but in a different kind of. I suppose Borderlands is in space, isn't it? Yeah, it's Borderlands, but without the cell shading and without the comedy. And you kind of know what this is. It's a bit like Trigun, actually. The plot of Trigun. It's like the colony ship that goes somewhere else. Bad stuff happens. Turns into the Wild West.
That's like that's the backstory to many games, really.
Yeah,
it's practically the backstory to Freelancer that we've just made a video about.
It's kind of it is pretty much that, yeah. But you were part of the Outrider team, which was supposedly the first team to come down and like try and scout out the planet, but then things went immediately bad. And you kind of got the blame for it for some reason. There's this storm called the Anomaly that no one can really explain, which locks everyone into this small part of the planet, because if you start going out of it, like the rules of physics stop applying and most people just disintegrate. But some people, including you, become altered and have powers and can thus do things. And hey, it becomes Destiny. So it's Destiny, just played from third person with Gears of War style feel to it, and it's all right actually as a shooter. It's kind of fine. It's actually kind of okay. It's fun. I would argue that the enemies have a little bit too much of a tendency to do that thing where they just kind of, when the enemies you need to worry about just kind of run straight at you. And there's not really much strategy to that. They're just coming for you. You backpedal as far as the game allows and take them out as much as you can. Whereas all the sort of minions and the grunts are actually the guys taking cover and branching out and flanking. And it's it's all right. You're kept on your toes. You're having to move around. You can't do all of the fights just camped behind one bit of cover, kind of like Gears of War kind of is some of the times. Well, actually, most of the time, isn't it? Most of the time, you just take cover and start pot-shotting everything until it's dead. And so it doesn't really fall into that problem that often here. The problem it does fall into is, in terms of the gameplay design, is that it's very obviously designed to be played in co-op with multiple people, because the battle arenas are often slightly awkwardly designed, or sometimes open enough where you really need to be kiting multiple enemies to multiple different human players, because there are just so many enemies,
right, to control the crowd, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the health system is it uses the word leech to describe it, so you don't have a lot of health yourself, but pretty much every bit of damage you do is kind of a vampire effect. So in order to stay alive, you have to be aggressive. As you do damage, you heal. So yeah, you've got to play aggressively. You've got to do this kind of thing. So like there are certain sections where it's been so overwhelming. Well, I'm literally just sprinting around the battlefield, trying to hurt people as I go, hoping I don't take as much damage as I need to just try and stay alive through the fight, because I need to be hitting enough people and leeching enough as I go, whilst slowly whittling down the numbers that are also trying to charge me down. And it's kind of madness. It's like, I think that would be less of a problem. I mean, it feels like I'm cheesing it, is what I mean. It's like I'm not really fighting. I'm just sort of going, through a battlefield, hoping I stay alive. And so that health system works to encourage aggressiveness, but it means that when you die, it's often sudden and kind of like, what the hell just happened? I was on full health a second ago, and now I'm on none. Like, how did that happen? Because you don't have a lot of health, and you need to be, it's... So yes, but it's weird. You're supposed to be the last guy, and then it's a co-op game with multiple guys. Like, how does that? None of it really ties up. None of it really fits together. It's like there's a good game in there somewhere, but as a result, it all kinds of ends up feeling a little bit messy. I will say there are some decent ideas in here, though. Like, I like its idea of the world tier. So you as a player level up, and the world levels with you generally.
Right.
Classic.
Yeah, standard.
But you can earn the right to increase the world tier which makes things a bit trickier for you. Like it will up the maximum range that enemies are ahead of you. So if you're level 15, for instance, and your world tier is 6 or 7, I forget where I am right now, enemies will be 2 or 3 levels higher than you. So why would you do that? You're making the game harder. And it's like, no, exactly. You're making the game harder to suit you, but you're getting rewarded for it because you can start wearing gear that's more levels, that's so many levels above your cap. You can wear the chances of loot dropping that's better increase the harder you make the game. And I kind of like the fact that's all detached, because it means you can get yourself in a situation where it's like, okay, like this is clearly too hard for me right now. I've not got the right setup, or because I'm playing on my own, I can't fight this in the way that I need to. I can just drop the world tier and make this fight easy. I'm not going to get decent loot out of it, but I can tune it. I can at least get through this damn bit.
That's kind of cool.
And I don't know, I think that's pretty interesting. I think it's like it rewards players for making it harder on themselves.
Momentarily, yeah.
Or making it easy. Like I leave it at the hardest setting most of the time, and then if I struggle because it's one of these fights that's just a bit like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I can do this single. I don't think I can do this solo. I'll drop it back for a bit, just one level, because the differences between levels do seem quite extreme. Like dropping it back just one is normally enough to make the fight piss easy. Whereas one level up, it's like suddenly I'm really struggling. But there are like, I think there's like 20 odd levels or something. Like there's a large number of tiers. So you can, but you have to earn the right to make it harder. So it takes a little while. That's why I'm only on like 6 out of like 20. But I kind of like the idea. It makes sense. You've still got difficulty levels in your multiplayer game. And that's kind of it. It's kind of all there is to say, really. Like, I wish it was better made, because there's something there. A Gears of War loot shooter can work. The powers seem fine. I'm playing as a pyromancer, so which encourages the aggressive play. But you can also be a tank, or you could be someone that can control time a little bit. Or
how does that work?
I think they just, when I say time, I mean slow people down.
Right, yeah.
Excuse me. It's kind of all right, but not amazing. Definitely not amazing. It's got a lot of problems. I would say you were talking earlier about the next gen look, and it's like this has got what I kind of associate in my head as what's the sort of the basic next gen look, and everything's definitely sharper than it would have been before. But I wouldn't say there's much in the way of a massive fidelity jump because of the problems in how faces look and its inability to hold 60 frames per second all the time. Or it's like there are definitely things in it that look good, especially like some of the vistas look nice, some of the lighting looks nice.
So many vistas.
It's got that sort of Dirt 5 thing, I guess, where it's using one of these modern lighting engines, which looks great some of the times, but sometimes everything looks a bit flat. And it's like in a sort of realistic way, but you look at it and think this kind of looks rubbish right now. But it's just how that sits. It's an interesting one. I'll probably stick with it for a bit. Just because I can solo it. I should probably see what it's like in multiplayer. see if it all clicks. Because you can matchmake, obviously, and just join random crews.
That's cool.
But I don't know how that affects like your progression through the story, because it's got a fairly standard, like, here's the linear mainline story you can follow, and then every now and then you'll stumble upon a side quest that will take you to different areas of the map. And these areas of the map tend to be like, there's one side quest that's specifically for this part of the map. And some of the time you can't even go to that area unless you've got the side quest that will let you go there. And it's like, so how does all that work in multiplayer? Like, who decides where we go?
I mean, I guess you have to play it to find out, but whether there's like focal commands built in and stuff.
Yeah. How does it handle the story elements? How does it handle the cutscenes? How does it handle conversations? How does the story make any sense when there's 4 of you and the story talks about you being the last?
Right? Yeah. Outriders.
So Outriders.
Cool.
Excuse me. Yeah, just trying to sort my throat out. Clearly talking too much.
Ugh. Genesis, Noir, and Outriders. Yeah. The double B.
The double B.
Deuce.
So let's talk finally about what could be considered a historic AAA game from back in the PlayStation 2 era that I've also been playing. Final Fantasy 12.
What?
Because it's the one I missed.
Okay. I don't remember
the Zodiac Age.
What it's about, that one.
Right, yeah. So the Zodiac Age is on Game Pass, obviously, where I get all my games. And the Zodiac Age is basically the sort of remaster of it. So I would say it's a very light touch remaster. Like the UI and the text has clearly been like up-resed and things. The game runs at 4K, I think, or at least it looks decent enough. I can't really tell. And some of I would say some of the texture work has been redone, but the majority of it is pretty much like how it looked on the PS2. So it's kind of a low effort remaster, if you ask me. I think the majority of it has just had a sharpening filter passed over all the textures, so it's got this weird, like hard-edged look to it that's like I don't think is quite right. I don't know if that's what that. I mean, Zach, you're probably more familiar with the art style of Ivalice than I am, thanks to it being the same location as Final Fantasy Tactics.
I don't know if it is the art style exactly, like the races, obviously, but
sure.
I don't know if it's. I guess it's sort of got a little bit of that semi-steampunkiness to it, kind of.
Sort of, yeah. I would say everyone's outfits have like got.
Well,
it's not really steampunk, but it's got that kind of metal curliness to it.
Well, it's like you get like musket-esque guns and that kind of thing in Tactics, especially. But then alongside regular Final Fantasy ass magic.
Yeah, there's definitely guns here, but although I've not seen too many of those. But there's guns. There's airships that have weird magic helicopter blades, sort of like almost like drones. They fly a bit like drones. Magic drones. Yeah, but the I don't really know where to start with this because, again, it's all right. It's like Final Fantasy 12 was kind of the departure from the Final Fantasy of old. This is when it started to change, when it broke from its patterns. Because Final Fantasy 10 was the last. Like you have to skip 11 because 11 was online. It was the first MMO they did. So like you're going from X to 12 here, and X was kind of like I would say the last of the traditional Final Fantasies. It's still turn-based combat in that. It's still it's still what I would say is like what my brain associates as a Final Fantasy game. A classic JRPG, and 10 was definitely that. This and 13 have way more in common than I realized. So you're not really going into a separate battle system for this. You're effectively just sort of walking up to dudes and you're saying what you're targeting them. And similarly to you would in the turn-based mode, you press A and it will bring up a little menu, and then you say like I want to attack this guy, and then it will do it. But then but all of that is happening pretty much in real time. There's no stopping. Like it will stop in the menu while you're choosing what to do, but everything else is kind of just playing out in real time and position, and in the dungeon where you're just standing. It's more of a dungeon crawler in that respect. you can stop at any point and say, hey, I need you to cast magic on this guy. I need you to heal this guy. And you can do that all manually if you want. But this game's thing is what it calls the Gambit system, which is basically minor programming.
Right.
You get like a load of slots, and they're in like priority order, but they're basically just a queue of if this, then that.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. So, like, at the top of the queue, you might want to put, like, priority 1, if an ally is less than 30% health, chuck a potion at them, and it will do that action if that's true. And if that action can't be fulfilled, it will move on to action 2 and be like, all right, what am I doing? And it's like, well, I'm attacking the party leader's target. And it's like, okay, great. Cool. And it's interesting. It hasn't really expanded very much yet, because you at the start, you only get 2 slots per character. Like, so you're limited to what you can pre-program in there. And you're also limited by what you can put in the if block, by what gambits you've been able to purchase. That's right, you have to purchase programming blocks. They are something you can buy from a shop.
Okay.
It's really weird. So you have to walk into a gambit shop and go, oh, I'd quite like the if I'm poisoned command, please. All right, yep, that'll be 50 gil. Buy that and add that to your list. And then you can use that as part of the gambit system. But then, like, you also have to level up enough to earn enough license points. So on the character's job sheet, you can eventually earn the right to add another gambit slot to their programming list. And then make that more complex or less complex. And there's also 3 different pages of gambits you can have. So you can switch from one gambit system to another if you wanted. To be like, oh, I've pre-programmed these 3 different rule sets, but right now I need this character to be using this rule set. So I could drop into the menu and switch their gambits to this rule set. It's a weird system. It's kind of odd, and I think the whole game generally is striking me as kind of odd. I'm sort of drawn in, but I wouldn't say I think it's good. Like, it's interesting, but I don't think it's good.
Do you think it has potential to develop it does something?
I mean, I hope so. I'm like 7 or 8 hours in, and the story is completely uninteresting.
Okay.
So far. Nothing's happened. Nothing has happened. It's like we're like, Varn is a totally, he's an idiot, basically. He's an idiot lead character. Yeah. And he's a, oh, but I'm like, okay, let's try and parse together what actually has happened in this game. The game opens with, like, the wedding of 2 people in Ivalice. I think we're in Dalmasca, if that makes sense to you, Zach. There's 2 important people get married. They then die as part of a war. The nation of Arcadia and one other massive nation who I can't remember the name of, who are either side of Ivalice, are basically having a fight, and you're in the middle. So, like, Arcadia tries to basically just take over Ivalice to push its front line up. And they succeed in doing so. So those 2 people you just saw get married, they're dead.
Right.
So then the king of Dalmasca basically wants to surrender to avoid more bloodshed in the nation. But a resistance group says you can't do that, and murders their own king to stop him from signing the treaty, which then means Arcadia just walks them violently instead. So this character called Bash is then blamed for it. And this other character called Rex is also there. Rex turns out to be the protagonist's brother, who is also now dead. So the protagonist is many, many steps removed from what the hell happened in that intro. It's like, it's your brother who died at the moment that the king was stabbed in order to prevent the war that killed off these 2 people we saw. I'm like, why have you told me all this? Like, none of that seems particularly relevant right now. And all that seems to be happening is that, hey, the Imperial Army kind of is in control over everything. There's a resistance movement. That's kind of it.
Right.
Like, most of what I told you happens in the first hour, and then after that point, it's just kind of like, okay, there's a resistance movement, and we've done trundled around and done errands, and tried to break into the palace for no good reason, and got caught and broke out, all for kind of no reason. I don't understand.
Kind of more of a setting than a story, I guess.
Yeah. And it's not helped by the fact that I think the game is ugly as butt.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, even with the remaster treatment, it's not a good looking game. Like, even for the PS2 era, like Final Fantasy X, I think looks good. Like,
right.
Even for a game of that age, like, but it's just every building is brown and stone and square and not really very nuanced look to it. Then you go to another city, and that city is also brown and made of bricks and square and bad looking. And like at one point, you go to an airport effectively to get on an airship to go somewhere else, and that airport is brown and blocky and not very interesting. And when you land on the other side at the other airport on a different continent, it looks identical. It's the same airport and it's brown. And it's the visual department, like for a Final Fantasy game, for a main numbered Final Fantasy game, I don't see the effort. I don't see it. B tier.
B tier.
Double B.
Maybe C tier. Yeah, double B. It's a weird thing. But like,
Final Fantasy in general is weird, isn't it? It's weird how, I don't know, how up and down it is sometimes.
I mean, like, you could argue my favourite one in the series, FF8, is the one with the worst storyline, and you know, I'd believe your argument for it. It's a weird-ass thing. But yeah, like, this one in particular, it's hard to. It's going to be hard to like, but weirdly, there's something about it that is drawing, and I can't really explain why yet. There is something about it that means I don't mind actually spending hours on it at a time, despite all those flaws. Maybe it's because like there is enough like not said that it's just like something's got to happen. This is a mainline Final Fantasy game. Something's got to happen. Maybe I'm going to get turned into a crystal rock monster or something, and then have to.
Is that what you think it's heading?
No, that's just kind of what 13 was about.
Oh, right.
Yeah, strange thing. Strange as. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I'm also playing a little bit of What the Golf on the side. I'm about 2/3 of the way through its main campaign now. It's charming.
You're still enjoying that then?
It's charming. Yeah, I mean, it's getting a little. I mean, some of the ideas perhaps stay. You know, it's getting less. I think the problem is like I'm becoming less and less surprised as it goes on.
Right. But, yeah. You're less What the Golf.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could spoil it here with a few things, but like I'm not sure I should. It's like I think there's one thing in the trailer I can say. It's like there's a super hot section, and it just at the end of every level it just goes super pot. And
that's quite good, yeah. Super pot.
Yeah, it's decent. It's good fun. And that is my gaming fortnight. Without playing Fortnite.
Right, it's time for you, Zach.
Well, this fortunately won't be very long, I guess, probably. Although a number of times I say that and that's not true. This is another one of those times where I feel like I haven't been playing anything somehow, even though it feels like I should have been. One of the things that I haven't been playing, because we have to get that out of the way, is because
get it out of the way.
I've been resisting the temptation to play more Freelancer in case we do
make
more videos.
Have you been like, okay, you want to get sucked into that?
Well, it's like as soon as I started playing, I was like, yeah, I could totally go for playing this again.
Yeah,
we have to make. If we're going to make a video of it, I have to not do that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like I don't know like that entire story.
Like, I would keep it backed up because I'm not set up for Deus Ex still. So then we could probably do another Freelancer next week.
And the only I did play it a tiny bit because I was like, well, I can at least get through the between main story mission grinds.
Right, yeah, that's a good idea.
And I was also actually wondering because the way it unlocks the next story mission, your pilot level is based on your money, basically your net worth or whatever. So it's based on literally how much cargo and your actual credits and all that stuff.
Oh, right. So it's not how much you've earned
historically. No, it's not based on how much you've earned in between the last story mission and the next one. So I was pondering whether it would be possible to just do some super boring grinding right in this early part of the game and just build up a big pile of cash so that the storyline missions will automatically advance.
I see. Just chain on.
I think that's probably how it will work.
But that might be a bit where it's it makes you do one side mission just to say you've done one, and then it will unlock immediately or something.
I don't think it will. I don't think it ever forces you to actually do the side missions, mainly because you can earn money in other ways. Like you could just go trading or go into a scrap field and shoot scrap out of the little asteroids forever and make money that way. So I don't think it ever forces you to have a specific way to make money.
Maybe it's one of those where it's you're in a bar and they say go do some work, and then you have to just leave and come back, and then it's oh hi.
Yeah, it could just be if you take off into space, then a radio message will trigger.
Yeah,
but the trouble is that definitely would be quite a significant grind because I think the way the money scales in that game is quite steep. You go from making 2,000 quid per mission at this point to 10,000 quite quickly. So having to spend a whole bunch of time grinding a 2,000 reward mission might not actually be worthwhile. It might be easier to just do one side mission later, but I don't know. We'll see about that. And then I also in case we do want to make the video, I also after I'd done that little bit of grind, I was also well, I could also just discover some of the map locations. I could fly around and pick up some of the free weapon loot off the shipwrecks that are in specific locations, because the main story is never going to tell you to go to those,
right?
So I flew around and went to some of the wrecks that I actually remembered, and I was just oh, these weapons aren't really any better. They're not actually special weapons at this point in the game.
Would it Oh, would they? So they'd always be at a specific level. Would they? The ones you find, it's not they're level scaled or anything like that.
No, because the shipwrecks are preset, so they're just in the system, and they're always in the same place, and they always have the same weapons. And it's just because of the way the main story is structured, you can't get to the other systems, so you can't skip ahead essentially.
Right. I see.
So you might as well just go and pick those up and get whatever guns they have. But yeah, at this point in the game, they are just generic weapons, not actually the slightly rarer stuff. Although I don't know if they do they ever get to being, apart from the very late game ones, I don't think they're ever named weapons or whatever you might call it in modern terms. I think they are just weapons that you could theoretically buy if you could find the place to buy them, essentially.
Right. They're not exotics, or
no. Except for in the cases where it's just it's the pirate faction version of the basic weapon that does slightly more damage but uses more energy, like the trails that I found off the shipwreck, off killing enemies.
I see.
But yeah, I flew around a bit and did that and explored the other adjacent systems to see if there was anything worthwhile. It's weird because you can actually the places you can buy the light fighter are the other systems, whereas in the system you start in, you could just buy the heavy fighter. It's there's no reason that you'd ever think to buy the light fighter because you're I need to upgrade my ship. Well, I better fly around the one system that I can get to at the start of the game. Oh look, I can buy the heavy fighter or this freighter. But then once you actually unlock the ability to jump to the other systems, it's oh, I can also buy the light fighter or the weird enhanced version of that civilian fighter you start the game with, which why would anyone buy that either?
Is it just so I wonder if it's you might not have made enough money for the heavy fighter or for even noticed it was there.
Yeah, I guess if you never docked on the specific stations where it's sold.
Yeah, so if you then fly away and just do the next bit of story or whatever, you're ended up in a situation where you might have a slightly cheaper fighter you could buy.
But why would you not dock at every station that you can get to at that point if you're looking for? Well, if you're looking for,
we have to dock there anyway as part of the story, didn't we? We had to dock at.
Oh yeah, you have to
where
dock
the heavy fighter was.
Yeah.
So I should point out, just in case it's not clear, this is the next video that's going up on Happy Salad.
On Happy Salad, yeah.
Have yourself some Freelancer.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't make the game, but because we're playing it, I guess we have a relationship with the people that did.
I guess we do.
Not sure about that. We have an understanding with the people who do, maybe.
Understanding.
The understanding is that please don't copyright our video. Please don't copyright strike our video.
You can view it on video on YouTube. We have a relationship with the people who host that.
Yeah.
That's true. You could also come to happysalad.net. We own that station.
Yeah.
We actually do.
Although we don't host the videos there.
No, we do.
So that.
I suppose we don't own the servers, though. But we have an understanding with the people that do.
With the people who do, yeah.
Apart from that, I forgot what else. I played some Shapes IO again. Mainly because I hadn't played. Because I hadn't played since they put in achievements, basically. So I was like, I can start a fresh game and just get all the achievements, or not all the achievements. Might have put myself in a Factorio situation again, where it's like, God damn it, these last 3 achievements are going to hang around forever because they're annoyingly difficult. Except I don't think there are. The problem with the one Factorio achievement I never got was it was a super long-term thing that you had to do in vanilla, like without mods. So that was just kind of annoying. Whereas in this game, it's just like I think the hardest achievement is probably the like speedrun achievement, and that's just a matter of like figuring out a build order, essentially, figuring out the quick way to get through the start of the game, which is what the achievement's for, rather than the whole game, which is what the speedrun achievement for is in Factorio. But yeah, I got to what they call free play, which is weird because like the first 26 levels, the shape that you have to make and deliver to the hub is like preset. So they're very specifically designed shapes that progress you through. Like now you can paint things, now you can cut things, now you can rotate things and whatever. So you get through that, and then you get to free play, which is after level 26. And then at that point, the shapes that you have to deliver just become randomly generated. So like each quadrant of the 4 corners of the shape, and then like it's 2 shapes stacked on top of each other, and each of the quadrants is painted differently. Because the idea is with that like once you get to that point and you've unlocked all the tools, you're just meant to build a machine that automatically makes the right shape. So like the hub has like a little port on it that sends out what shape it wants, and then you just put that into the wire system, and then you process that signal through a bunch of different gates and calculations or whatever to disassemble it into the parts, and then have your machine just build the right thing, which is quite helpful, but also means that you sort of, once you've built that machine, you can just sort of sit there for a few levels and it just does it automatically, which is kind of nice, but then you're not playing the game any longer.
Did that Alexa message get picked up just then?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. That was quite fun. It was just like, we interrupt this podcast to tell you that the bloody fridge is open.
The bloody fridge is open.
Actually. Yeah, so I built this, that you get an achievement for completing a level without changing your factory at all, which is basically the trick to build the make anything machine, where you just have it automatically configure itself to build the correct thing. But the trouble is that when it switches over to those randomly generated shapes, it changes from being like deliver 1,000 of this shape to being like deliver 8 of this shape per second. So after you've built the machine that makes anything, you then have to just like expand that to make a lot of a thing. Which again is kind of not very interesting at that point. It's like you've solved the problem. Now you're just multiplying your solution several times over. which is maybe not that interesting. I mean, I'm sure I could come up with a way more optimized version of the make anything machine that I made, because it is quite like slow, and you use like whole belts of material to make a quarter of a belt output or whatever, because there's 4 quadrants in each shape and everything. It's not particularly efficient. But yeah, so I got most of the way through that, I guess. I got a significant portion of the achievements, but not all. So who knows whether I'll continue with that again. Also, weirdly, for this being like the super minimalism Factorio, it doesn't run very well at this point when the machines are this big. But that's kind of inherent in this kind of super indie game.
This is why you need one of these thread riffers.
Yeah, exactly. I do need CPU for the types of games that I play.
Yeah.
Nothing but CPU. And then I guess the other thing that I played extremely briefly, but is kind of funny to talk about, was I've been seeing a lot on YouTube mentions of this game called Friday Night Funkin'.
Friday Night Funkin'.
Which is basically...
Is that FUNKIN apostrophe?
Yes.
I was kind of hoping it was just Funk N.
No, not quite.
Funkin'.
It's basically, imagine DDR, then imagine Stepmania, the PC version of DDR.
Yeah.
Then imagine someone made a Flash game of it, except it's not Flash, obviously, because Flash doesn't exist any longer. So I guess HTML5 version of it.
Right.
It's basically what would be a Flash game, DDR Stepmania clone, with the conceit of it is slightly different in that it's meant to be like rap battles almost, except there's no lyrics, it's just like noises, but like that. But you see, because it's like a rap battle, there's like 2 lines of notes going down the screen, but it takes turns, so you see the enemy do their pattern and then you do your one. So it hands it back and forth, and then sometimes there's duets where both are going at the same time, but I mean, you're obviously only looking at your half of the screen, essentially.
Slight tangent on the but on Friday, it was the last day of my project, and the client organised a quiz, which is fine, or whatever. But I noticed on the invite before we joined that the penalty for losing the quiz was you had to write and perform a rap in 6 minutes. And I was like, that's impossible. So I was like, okay, we're going to need a plan because we're definitely going to lose this. And of course, we lost by 1 point, obviously. And I was like, and they were like, okay, go on another call, another Zoom call, and write your rap and then come back in 5 minutes and then do it. And I was like, there is no way we're going to collaborate to write a rap in 5 minutes. So I just looked up the lyrics to Fresh Prince, copy pasted them into a Word doc and altered them because it had to be a rap about the project or whatever. So I just changed lyrics to be about lockdown, including that bit. So it was like novel coronavirus that was up to no good. Started making trouble in the neighborhood. Got one little cough and Boris got scared. Anyway, so that was stupid. Tangent.
But yeah, so I played most of that game, except I didn't really get all the way through it. But it's okay. It's very clearly they're trying to make it a real game, a Kickstarter or whatever. So they're trying to make a real version of this. But so what actually happened next was I was then I was thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, Stepmania. So then I was like, I've totally still got my old Stepmania files on my external hard disk. The ancient MP3s.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I wonder if Stepmania is still a thing, and it totally is, of course. So I was just like, well, I'll just fucking download Stepmania and get my ancient step files off my external hard disk, and they're still totally, they must still be using the same format or whatever, because they still totally just load.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I'll just have a nostalgia moment and play all these dumb songs. Because I didn't really even have that many. There's only 20 files in there. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this as well. But the trouble is that, of course, I'm not good at it any longer. So I like some of these really hard songs I can't actually do any longer.
I'm sure you get back into the groove.
But then it was just like, oh yeah, I remember how I have all these terrible songs. And then then it's like, oh yeah, I remember I made these terrible songs as well.
You made them, yeah.
Yeah.
I have the
Carnival Night Zone.
No, it wasn't that.
No.
I have the 4 files that I made. There's a half-finished one of Rob's songs that I never got round to finishing. There's naturally Science Genius Girl by Free Spot.
Naturally.
Had to make a chart for that. Well, except that one's well easy. I think I was deliberately making an easy chart before I was going to make a harder one, and then didn't get around to it. There's Skydeck from Sonic Adventure.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was probably my best one. And then there's the really fucking impossible chart. Well, it's actually not that difficult, but really dumb chart of I Hate Hate by Cornelius.
Oh.
Which I was only using to fiddle around with like how you can change the BPM of the song in the level. So like the step chart,
you would have to
shift speed.
Getting that to match up on that track must have been pretty difficult.
Well, it's funny because whenever it does like those long guitar, you can just like speed the chart up, but while you're doing a hold, so it just looks cool, but it doesn't actually make it more difficult. And pauses, of course. You can have all kinds of weird pauses in that song. And also,
could you imagine with all the weird little guitar-y bits, you could just make it like randomly stop.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I did. And then I also discovered that one of the songs that I'd forgotten that I did have amongst the other songs that I downloaded was a certain song whose real name is Hot Limit. Yep. A song that we know better as
We Drink Ritalin.
Yep. Submarines Burning in Fire. And hilariously, that like song, someone has also ripped the like flash animation to play in the background, but it's like
really?
Like 2 frames per second. It's god awful, and must be like 320p or something. Because naturally, this was from the ancient internet.
Yeah,
but the step chart's okay.
Gather me eyes.
Yep. So yeah, I played. That was like so. After I played about 20 minutes of Friday Night Funkin', I played about 10 minutes of Stepmania, and then I was like, okay, I'm good.
Okay. Now we're done.
I think I ended up downloading because there were packs available for that. We could basically get all of DDR's history.
Yeah, you definitely had like the actual songs.
It all. Yeah.
I had weird bullshit that I downloaded and charts that other people had sent me that they'd made. This was a popular thing, like in the fairly early days of the IRC channel. There was one guy who was super obsessed with it, and then everyone got into it for a while and was just like making their own charts for weird songs. I have a couple of weird like classical music or like sampled classical music tracks that someone else made. Also, I like. I'm not even sure what genre to call it, but like a funked up version of the Star Wars intro music.
Oh god, it's not like that terrible 70s sort of disco funk version.
I don't think it's that one. I think it's a bit of a more modern style than that one. Okay, but it's still bad.
Every now and then Spotify tries to tell me I would like that, and I'm like, no.
I mean, you might like for the stupidity, not because it's actually good.
No, it really isn't good.
Boom. So there was that.
Yeah, that's quality. Because I remember messing around with like trying to get like a good theme on my Stepmania for ages. Like, because the theme packs were quite extensely done, weren't they? There was loads of them,
and you can just basically change all the graphics of that game with a mod, essentially.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, and another thing that I noticed that I'd totally forgotten about is because the step charts have like an author logo. I'd forgotten that I'd made a logo for me. Like I made a little logo that says Zeg, but the Zeg has like a brick texture on it.
Nice.
It wasn't the same one we used to use for like
No,
software
it
stuff.
just wasn't another. It was just like, here's another version of that where I made another stupid. Except you can barely read it because it's so tiny and like the icon rotates, so like half the time it's backwards, so it's not even actually helpful for it to have words.
Oh, I see. Is it doing like a horizontal
Yeah,
spin effect?
Spinning it. So that was real dumb.
Burning cell phone.
I think that was pretty much everything. I did briefly go back into Minecraft again, I guess. I'm still thinking about continuing with one of the various mod pack things that I was trying out before, but it didn't stick very well. I think it's because I've just got too used to it's because every mod pack uses the same mods. And like they try and rearrange them or like force you to use different mods at different points in the progression, but at a certain point you're just always going to come back to doing things the same way, where it's just like, yep, this one mod has the best way to do this thing, so eventually every mod pack converges on it. Although it has been kind of interesting because now that a fairly major new update for Minecraft is coming, like in 2 parts this year, and there's been because for a long time the mods have been stuck on like version 1.12 because that was when all those mods were made, and like as Minecraft continued to update, the mods just couldn't keep up essentially, so they just committed to being, we're just going to stay on version 1.12, we'll update the mods but we'll still be on version 1.12. But it's been so long at this point that now some of the major mods like the Tinker's Tools mod and whatnot are actually trying to update to modern Minecraft, like 1.16. So there is starting to be like mod packs where you can play in actual modern Minecraft with all the stuff that's been added to Minecraft since then and with mods. Which is kind of interesting for me because then I play it and I'm like, I don't even know what parts of this are the mods and what parts are actual Minecraft any longer. Because so much has been added to Minecraft in the meantime. And the big update that's coming from Minecraft this year is maybe the one that I'm most interested in because it changes the terrain generation, specifically the caves, to make them much less like generic. I don't know if it's going to actually be better for me though, because my problem with random generation is always, the problem of random generation of things being like messy. Like things that don't match up properly or like weirdly overwrite each other's generation and it fucks it up. I'm not sure it's going to help with that, but it will probably just make the caves bigger and nicer to look at least.
So are they still doing the thing where they maintain the Java version of Minecraft as much as the Windows version?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not actually sure what the exact split is any longer because it seems like they've almost reached the point where the two versions literally have different stuff and they're porting between both. Like when they started updating the terrain generation for Java, one of the things that like kind of snuck in was like ice caves, where it uses the ice tiles and whatnot into the cave biome to make it an ice cave, and that had already been in the other version of Minecraft, like the Windows version.
Right.
But like it wasn't. So it's sort of trading both ways, but I think the Windows one is slightly ahead, but like still doesn't have this full big update that they're currently working on for the Java one.
Right, because that's sort of how I'd imagine it to be, right? Microsoft's focus or Mojang's focus would have been on the modern version, I suppose, because that's what ends up on the consoles.
Well, it's just weird how Minecraft is even developed, because a lot of the time it still seems like there's just like 2 people working on it. I mean, that's the fault of their like PR strategy or whatever, where they only ever have like 2 people in the videos talking about all the features all the time. So it only seems like there's 2 people working on it. Although on the other hand, considering the speed that these updates actually come out, it also kind of seems like there's only 2 people working on it. Because it takes forever. And in fact, this update that's coming in 2 parts this year was only meant to be 1 part, but then one half of it didn't get done enough in time. So now they're like, it's going to take forever for this to come out if we wait for the whole thing to be done. So we'll have to release it in 2 parts instead. God damn it. So that's the state of Minecraft. It continues to be Minecraft, even with Microsoft's help.
I'm sure I've asked you this before, but is the modern version is there a mod scene for that version as well, or is it does everyone just converge on Java?
I don't know what the Windows situation is like for mods.
It's ages since they did that, right?
Yeah,
the C++ version.
It is now, yeah.
Because the thing that's easier, I guess, in the Windows version is for it's not exactly mods, but they call them resource packs, which isn't just skins. It's it can actually sort of alter the game in some ways, just not as much as mods. But it's mainly sort of skin based. So that's where you'll find all the fancy texture packs.
Right.
And those seem to be a lot more common for the Windows version, whereas all the actual functional mods still hang around in Java, which I guess makes sense because it's probably way easier to program the functional mods in the Java version for the people who are used to it anyway, who have been doing it all this time and keeping those mods vaguely up to date, even if it's only 1.12 up to date. And I think that's more or less all I did. I didn't continue playing Pokemon, unfortunately. That's already started falling off. Damn it. I got discouraged by some of the missions. Some of the dungeons that you have to go through have really awkward setups where it's just you start at level 5 and you can't bring any items with you. So you have to level up inside the dungeon and you have to rely entirely on the randomly spawned items to help you survive. And it's just that kind of is annoying. But maybe once I've unlocked most of the Pokemon, I can be okay, so what Pokemon is actually good at level 5? You'd think it would be the starter Pokemon, but not really. Their stats kind of aren't great. But then you can't rely on a legendary Pokemon either, because they usually don't have any moves at level 5. Or they have one move. So then I started thinking about looking at the goddamn, Pokedex websites and being okay, in this generation of 720 Pokemon, so you have to strip out all the newer ones, what Pokemon have good stats at level 5? And then what moves do they have at level 5? And how fast do they even level up? Would this be a viable strategy? For a moment, I thought I'd come up with a great strategy of just being a ghost. Right. Because a lot of things can't hit you, because at level 5 a lot of things have tackle, which is a normal move, and normal moves can't hit ghosts.
Oh, that's handy.
And I thought that might work, but then a lot of the ghost types don't have any good. A lot of the ghost types at level 5 have ghost moves that can't hit normal, so you're screwed as well. So it doesn't really work that well. And the other reason I thought ghost might work is because it's a really weird mechanic, but in Mystery Dungeon, the ghost can phase through walls. You can walk inside the walls. So I was well, maybe I could just cheese it by being a ghost and just walking directly to the exit through the walls and not have to actually fight anything. But unfortunately, that doesn't work because walking through the walls drains your hunger meter super fast. They thought of that. So unfortunately, cheesing it may not be an option. So that was the problem I was having with those very specific restriction dungeons, where it's just this is going to be either I'm going to have to find out that there is a cheese tactic or a semi-cheese tactic, or it's going to be a lot of just keep re-rolling it until you get lucky, which just isn't great.
Yeah, there must be a cheese.
It would be much easier if you could take items, but you can't. If you could take items, you really could just cheese it, because you could just bring this game's equivalent of rare candy, I guess. Just instantly level yourself up to level 10, and then you'd be good.
Oh wait, so in these restriction dungeons, you can start at 5. But...
Yeah, that is the general restriction. Is start at 5 and no items. Sometimes you get start at 5, but you can take items. But there's definitely ones where you don't get items.
Does that mean you can take any of your crew in and they just de-level?
Yeah, it just gives you essentially a new copy of that Pokemon. It doesn't affect your actual stats. They just remember it when you come back out. Unfortunately, that weirdly also like negates move leveling, like how you can level up the power of moves if you use them a lot. It forgets that as well, which kind of sucks, because I thought that might be a way to cheese it. Like if you just use tackle forever in your normal mission, so tackle became really good, then when you went in as level 5, you'd have a super upgraded version of tackle, but it doesn't remember that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll still continue chipping away at that. The other reason I guess I haven't been playing that so much is because like I don't think I had this problem before, and maybe I'm just like old, but like the 3DS is way heavy and it messes with my fingers quite badly. It's like because you're resting a lot of that weight on like your middle finger rather than your index, because your index is on the L and R. And it's like that. Yeah, that's not a very natural position, and it like kind of RSIs you after a while.
Not the most. I don't find it that comfortable holding the Switch for some games, like especially if Fantz might be a bad example. Yeah, but it is a bit more ergonomic, I guess, than the
marginally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty flat. It's not exactly. There's not much space to make it ergonomic, is there, in the Switch?
No, it's just like slightly curved on the corners.
Yeah, the Wii U pad was definitely more comfortable in the hand. The tablet.
But yeah, the 3DS is kind of awkward. I don't know if it's too small or too big. It's too heavy, but like if it was bigger, that might make it more ergonomic for the hand layout of the buttons and the control nub or whatever.
If the 3DS had a removable battery, you could take it out and light it up.
Yeah, I guess I could, because I do have it plugged directly into power a lot of the time. The battery still seems to be good on my 3DS. Like it still lasts like 3 hours or whatever. That's maybe the other problem with it is that, well, I mean, if you're playing with the 3D on, it makes it much worse, because you have to hold it at a very specific position away from your face.
Sure, and you've got the original 3DS, right? Which didn't
without the adaptive 3D.
Fancy tracking. Yeah.
But I turned that off. But even so, it's like, for a small screen like that, you do still have to hold it within a reasonable distance to your face to be able to see what the fuck's going on. So that's that, I think. I think that's everything.
Games, what have been played by Zachary Burgess. Cool.
The cat is denying this podcast to end. She's
How so?
She's sat on me right now, and I'm some distance away from my PC.
Classic cat maneuver.
Yeah, absolutely. She knew I was going to have to get out at some point, so it's like, no.
Well, I fiddled around yesterday, and because finally my extra Sonos speaker arrived, so I tried to set up the surround sound, which was quite fiddly, but I think it seemed to work eventually. I don't know. I think I probably need a better router, to be honest, than the one that just came from BT. But I don't know how you do that. Really, do you just buy a router and then how do you?
Pretty much. I mean, the settings you need to plug into another router are readily available on most of them.
Yeah.
It's not that tricky. Like most of the time, it literally is like a username and password, and that's kind of it. And like like the routers all log in to some service or something.
Yeah.
And on the line, and then it just works.
Because it's got like a cable box or whatever, not cable, but fiber optic box thing that's separate at the moment.
Oh right, yeah, you got one of those. Okay.
Yeah, and that plugs into the BT home hub thing or whatever. So I reckon it would be good if I could replace that, probably with some kind of Nighthawk bullshit. Lots of aerials coming off it.
Yeah, that's what I'm rocking.
I just don't think it assigns IP addresses very, very readily. Anyway, but yeah, it's working. So I tested it out with the first level of my free copy of Res Infinite. Yeah, and that's pretty cool in surround sound, that game. I guess it's kind of, it even says like headphones or surround sound recommended before you even start playing it. Yeah. Well, so that seems good. I had to faff around to get the TV to output 5.1 from the apps, like the Netflix app.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a little bit. No, for some reason the digital sound output is defaults to PCM, which is just stereo, and you have to change it to like pass through. I don't know why. Anyway, because it's optical. Because I've got the older Sonos.
I didn't think PCM was just stereo. I thought PCM just meant it was uncompressed.
Yeah, but it didn't. For some reason, it didn't output the 5.1 in that mode. I don't know. I don't think it's quite right. But I've got the older sound bar, and I might consider getting the new one that has eARC or whatever. Probably work better because it's just optical. But I got it working eventually.
Yes, but watch out for that 2.1 thing if you're still getting a PlayStation or have a PlayStation.
What's the deal with that?
Make sure it's HDMI 2.1 compliant.
Oh yeah. The cable.
No, the whole box.
The TV.
No, well, your TV needs to be 2.1 if you're going to be dealing with 2.1 signals. But also, if you're feeding, depending on how you're rigging it, normally you go console, audio device, TV.
Oh no, that's not how this one works. The current one I've got is optical out from the TV to the sound bar, but the new one, it's also like HDMI out from the TV to the sound bar. So you actually lose an weird HDMI port. Yeah, it's like
I haven't heard of that.
Enhanced audio.
Because I was about to ask, it's like, how is eARC relevant to you then? And it's like,
it's like output. It's weird because you actually lose there's only one port on the TV that supports the eARC, and you lose that port, right? Because it's doing audio out. It's weird.
That is strange. Yeah, normally I just assumed it would like do what the TV normally
does,
like a daisy chain, the signal back, on the same cable.
But no, it's weird. It's not what I expected. Anyway, but that's for the future. I've just got this optical one for now. But it seems to work. So I just want to see if it stays, because I've had one of the speakers, like the sound bar, still work with the TV, but just disappear from the Sonos system.
Yeah.
I think that's to do with the router, probably.
I was about to say, have you got your PlayStation yet, or did you get
PS5?
One? PS5, yeah.
No, I can't get one. As soon as I can, buy them, I'll get one. But
because you might run into, because what are you doing? You're feeding optical from your console right now.
No. It's
or you just
optical
just going through HDMI.
Optical out from the TV right now.
Right, you might run into trouble because of I forget what it's called, the like HDCP or something like that, the HDMI copy protection thing.
Oh, from the PlayStation.
Yeah, because like if you're using optical out from your TV to drive your sound, you might not be able to get surround out of it because HDCP kicks in and says that conversion's not legal.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, by the time I get a PS5, I can just upgrade the sound bar. To be honest, I mean, you just can't buy them.
Yeah, because that's one of the problems I had with that whole rig and why it was a bit awkward to get set up right. Is because my TV blocks certain things from being possible because HDCP kicks in, and it's like, such a ball ache.
Anyway,
it's like, if I could just like have the optical from my TV kick out the same signal that was feeded, then everything would be okay, and I wouldn't need to worry about the fact that the goddamn new consoles don't have optical ports on them.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, res is res. It's just as good as it was on PS2, but sharper and in surround sound. So that's good. So I'll have to try something more serious with that and see what the effect is like. What would be a cool thing to try with surround sound? I guess something like Uncharted or something, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I most recently noticed it in. Like, I always thought the Call of Duties that were good with their sound balance,
right?
In surround, they always did a decent job. I guess racing games, like, easy to do a decent job at.
Yeah, I suppose so. What, they're coming up behind you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably boot up Wipeout again, see what that's like.
Yeah, give that a go.
Yeah.
But yeah, most things like it's kind of. I think it was Red Dead or something. You could hear where people's voices have just come from various corners of the room, and
that's cool. Yeah, when you're wandering around the camp and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit into another playthrough of Red Dead, so I'll put that one back up as well. That looks insane on the TV. Just the picture quality is just ridiculous. It's only a PS4 as well.
Oh, you're not rocking a Pro?
No, it is a Pro.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's just I'm saying it's not a PS5.
But yeah, it's still pretty sharp.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I don't think so. Go on.
I was just curious. Like, I wonder if I think Red Dead was one of those games that suffered from a not that great HDR implementation.
Oh, it definitely is in HDR. I mean,
yeah, it's in HDR, but it's like its implementation wasn't
right.
perfect. I remember Digital Foundry sort of tearing it apart a little bit and being like, "Yeah, this isn't the best." You know, we expected a little more from this. Like, I wonder if they ever went back and fixed that. Like,
I couldn't tell you if it's been patched.
No, I don't. Like, sometimes it's hard to tell, right? With HDR stuff,
true.
It's like, was it supposed to look like right now? The cat has now left my lap.
Okay,
good. This podcast can end.
Signals the end of the podcast.
The cat is not interested by HDR.
Well, thank you for joining us. Look out for that freelancer video that we discussed earlier on our YouTube channel, and you can just go to happysalad.net to find all our videos and podcasts, and we'll have another one in a couple of weeks, probably from the new studio.
Well, we might not, because I might not have internet.
Yeah, so depending on what's happening, we will update you, or not.
I mean, we could have the never before seen occurrence of a Zach and Dan only podcast.
Yeah, that's not a Toddcast. That's it's a super Toddcast.
You'd have to come up with a new name. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Rightio. Catch you next time, listeners. Bye.